Hi, I'm California Vlogger and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Sociology 101 and what to expect. Before I get into the course that I took, I did take this course in college, community college. I just want to share with you guys that I added to my room decor. This is a bed set that I got. I actually purchased this from Target. It's a sheet set, and you can see, I'll just show you the pillowcase. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's like, there you go. There's like little stripes on it, even though the stripes are white. It's 400 thread. I think it's pretty standard, is between 2 and 8. So I guess 2 and 800 thread count. So I guess 400 is a little bit in the middle. And the blanket that I got is, it's a down imitation. It's not really a down because down is made from goose feathers. So I just didn't want to do that. And I have used down in the past and it does irritate my skin. So just a little extra information about my room decor if you guys were interested. And now we're going to get into the book. So, okay, so I took this sociology class. Just want to give you guys a disclaimer. I started it when college was held in the classroom, and halfway, a little bit less than halfway through the course, we went online into Zoom courses. So this might be a little bit different. You know, my experience with this class might be a little bit different than what you guys might experience, but I'm just going to go over kind of like the subject matter, and I'm going to go over the book. Depending on who your teacher is, you might have different subject matter, different book, but it's going to be generally, you know, similar. My teacher was Professor Myers, and that was at City College in San Diego. So if you're in the San Diego area, if you're going to go to community college and you're watching this, you know, and you're thinking about what professor to take this course with, I can, you know, here's some information on Professor Myers in this video as well. So this book, it looks like it has 16 chapters. And your instructor will probably, because this book is so, it's like, this is a thick book, and it's like a lot of writing. So your instructor in most of your college courses will probably not assign you to read every chapter, but and they will pick what they think is the most important. So that's why the instructor that you have might vary as far as like what you're going to learn in that class. Because if they think, oh, you know, like this chapter is just, I don't find it important, then you're probably not going to learn about it. And another instructor might really like a specific chapter, and then you are going to read about it. So that's what I'm saying. You know, sociology is the same subject regardless of the teacher, but if you know, depending on your teacher, what you're going to focus on may differ. So the first chapter, I'm just going to go through the book. I'm going to go through the chapters, and I'm going to talk to you about what we learned and what we were expected to complete as far as for our course. And I did get an A in this course, so I'm just going to leave that there to let you guys know. So I'm not, you know, I think I have a good idea how to get an A in Sociology 101, I hope, because I got one. And so, yeah, anyways, just throwing that out there. So the first chapter is Sociology in the Real World. And I really like this book because it had all these fun pictures. I don't know what other people's sociology books look like, but every chapter had these really fun pictures. And so for the first chapter, it kind of just talks about you know, what this study of sociology is. It talks about the history of sociology, the pioneers, because if you guys don't know, sociology is the study of society and how it works and how we work together and different parts and pieces and how those pieces combine and how it, as a machine, how society is, how we are. And it wasn't always a study that people thought of. And I really like this part. It talked about Michelle Obama. There she is right there. It talks about other people who also got a degree in sociology. Michelle Obama was one who got a bachelor's in sociology before she went to law school. And yeah, so it just talks about how sociology became. So we learned about that. Chapter 2 is studying social life, sociological research methods. I'll show you guys this one now. I just want you guys to know I am a big reader. I really like this picture. I'm a big reader, so I read the entire book. Studying sociology life, sociological research methods was a chapter that my teacher decided was not important. Or maybe she thinks it is important, but we just didn't have enough time to cover every chapter, and that was the one she decided no. So we actually didn't learn about any of this in class. I learned about this on my own. It talks about, this chapter talks about studies that are done to learn about society, how they conduct those studies, and basically how they come to conclusions, how they figure things out in society. Before the pandemic started, we would be assigned a chapter. You're going to read this chapter, and then we would talk about it in class. We would talk about it in lecture. We would be assigned a paper to write about the chapter. When the pandemic started, she was not a teacher that decided to go with Zoom. So we didn't talk about the chapter in lecture anymore. We continued to write a paper on every chapter that we read. And she also included extra videos for us to watch and extra, a little bit extra assignments because we weren't in a Zoom class and we weren't doing lecture, which I thought was very fair. And so that's why I was saying this course might differ compared to and you may be watching this video, and a lot of classes are gonna be online more than normal, even when schools do open. So you might decide, hey, I want to do this course online. So they'll give you a good idea. And I do have both perspectives because, like I said, we started in the classroom, we finished the class online. So chapter 3 is culture. Here's a picture of all the cultures. And so obviously culture plays a really big role in society. And this chapter just talks about that and how dominant cultures, as far as what culture that most of the people share in a country, kind of dominate what's the norms and what's considered okay in society. So that was really interesting. Chapter 4 is socialization, interaction, and the self. There is a whole bunch of pictures of different same self, yourself in a whole bunch of different ways. So this chapter talks about maybe first you're a woman, so that gives you a role in society. Then you're a mom, that gives you another role. Then maybe you have a career, so you have a job. Maybe you're a boss. So it just talks about how we have all these different roles in society and how that shapes who we are. And these roles may not necessarily be true to who we, feel is our true self, but we do have roles in society, and we, we're expected to play them. And if you have a job and you want to get paid and keep your job, you might have to play a specific role to have that job. So that's what that chapter kind of talks about, different roles that we have in society. Chapter 5, separate and together in groups. And this one talks about group dynamics. It talks about in groups and out groups. So it kind of talks about how we interact in groups. And groups can be an athletic team. It can be a prison, different places that we kind of get categorized up into, and our interactions in those different places. Chapter 6, deviance. This is a chapter she went into pretty thoroughly. And deviance is a really interesting subject because deviance talks about, and you can see in this picture, I actually just noticed this for the first time, but this guy, this old man is punching the glasses off. I don't know what's going on. And this lady's screaming. That's obviously not acceptable. And this guy just fell asleep in the middle of the table. These people look like they're having an argument. I don't know what the heck. This person's under the table, they shouldn't be there. Oh my gosh, look at this guy. I didn't notice him either. He's just cutting pieces off the plant like a jerk for no reason. This chapter is about deviant behavior, what society considers deviant. And deviant doesn't necessarily mean wrong. It just means society doesn't accept it, so we consider it wrong. And there's things in history that were considered deviant, like, I don't know, like being a woman and being able to read. Now it's totally acceptable and you should read. But so deviance change depending on how society's views change. And one of the pictures they have here is this guy that's pregnant. Some people consider that deviance. Some people consider that wrong. Is it wrong? Everybody has their own opinions. When society decides something's wrong, it's not necessarily wrong. It's just not what's normal, so society says that it's wrong. Oh, and then they have a picture of Orange is the New Black. So this is like, people are like, ooh, like prison inmate, completely wrong. But it's like, Orange is the New Black kind of normalizes it. Like, you can be a normal person and just because you're in prison, happen to somebody. So those kinds of things, just thoughts about how we label what's okay, what's not okay. And then when we label something as a society, we decide it's not okay, all of a sudden that person becomes a bad person, even if it's not wrong and they're not bad. It's like part 2. Understanding inequality. And then in part 2, we get into chapter 7, which is social class, the structure of inequality. This chapter was probably one of my favorite chapters. It's what I found the most interesting. I really liked this picture. This is a photographer that specializes in kind of like people and their lifestyles. And so what this photographer did is they went to different countries and they took a picture of families, and they asked the families to bring all of their possessions outside of their house and get photographed with them. So the first one is Pearland, Texas. First picture, and you can see it here. It's like their house. They have like all this furniture. What's she holding? Oh, she's holding the Bible. They got all their family photos over here. Very a traditional middle class family. They got a lot of stuff. And then the next one is Iceland. They don't look like they have a lot of stuff, but they have like some instruments, and they have like pony or whatever that is. It's in Iceland, and very beautiful background, but so their stuff compared to this stuff, it's a little bit different. Kuwait. And they look like they have some religious stuff. Well, maybe some religious practice stuff. I'm not sure. I'm not educated in Kuwait's culture, so I could be completely wrong. And they have like just their clothes. It looks a lot more simple, a lot more humble lifestyle than with contrast with those. And then you have after that Mali. I do not know where it is. It looks like a desert, so maybe the Middle East. I have no idea. I'm not sure. I need a lesson in geography. Okay, now their house, oh my goodness, look at this. They have all their cars, all these cars. They have a bunch of rugs to the nines. And then they have I don't even know. Looks fancy. Whatever it is, looks fancy. Okay. Thailand looks like another humble home. It's just like fan and a refrigerator, a chicken, and a moped or something. So very, not too crazy. And then the last one is Bhutan. It's like a clay house, and it looks like they mostly just have tools for cooking and cleaning. It's very basic. So that is social class and structure of inequality. So as you see, and what that means in different countries is different. And then it talks about slavery. It talks about the caste system. It talks about the upper class, the middle class. No, the upper middle class and the middle class. It talks about as far as class, percentage of population. So the upper class is at 1%. The upper middle class is 14% of the country. The middle class is 30%. The working lower middle class is also 30%. The working poor is 13%, and the underclass is 12%. And underclass, when they say underclass, is a typical household of 15,000 or under. So, and just to give you guys a scale, I won't say all of them. Upper class is 2 million. And then upper middle class is 150,000. So you see all these different, and then it goes into typical occupations, typical education. And some people might say like, oh, like that's so, insensitive, you're being judgmental. So these things that I'm reading in this book, these are not someone's opinion. These are studies. So these are actual facts. And so a lot of people like to think like, oh, like class isn't real, like money doesn't affect, like money does affect where the likelihood of where someone's going to end up. Doesn't mean that you can't start poor and become rich. Obviously, we know that there's celebrities that have done that. That's something that can happen for people. The likelihood of where you will probably end up. And that's not anybody being judgmental. That's not anybody being negative. These are studied facts, and that's what sociology is about. That's how they know these things. They track people, they study people, and where you reside, where you're from, does have an effect on what education you may receive. It has an effect on your health, and it has an effect on the likelihood of you becoming imprisoned or getting a criminal record. And even your ethnicity affects the likelihood of these things, the likelihood or the unlikelihood. So that's what this whole chapter was about. And I really didn't even realize myself that all those things played a role. I thought, like, oh, people are being like racist, or they're just deciding like, but these are facts that are studied. And it's actually, it's actually a shame that these things are affecting our society. And it's good for more people to know that it does, because that hires the chance that we can do something about it, instead of people thinking like, oh, it doesn't affect, it's not a big deal. It does affect, and it is a big deal. Okay, chapter 8. Race and ethnicity as a lived experience. In this chapter, racism and its many forms, microaggressions, white privilege and colorblind racism, reverse racism. So it kind of talks about, all the different types of racism there are, what it might be, or passing, if you guys haven't heard that term before. It just talks about some terms that are hurtful and how racism is hurtful in our society. Chapter 9, constructing gender and sexuality. This is like a bunch of... So this chapter is about, sexuality and sexual orientation, binary terms, and sex, gender, sexuality, families, how that plays out in school, prejudices and discriminations, gender language, and microaggressions. So there's microaggressions when it comes to different genders and gender identities as well. So this chapter talks about that. Chapter 10, social institutions, politics, education, and religion. So obviously social institutions like schools, churches, and government plays huge roles in our society, and that's what this chapter is all about. It goes into that. Says who rules America, the media, and the political process. And then I'm looking, it shows some pictures of some rioting. So it's just, there's so many aspects of how school, the law, the church play a huge role in our society. That those institutions play a huge role in who you are, even if you don't realize it. Okay. Chapter 11, the economy and work. So this chapter is pretty self-explanatory. It's about, and it goes into the Industrial Revolution. So when the Industrial Revolution started and people There was less women and children staying at home. There was more factory work, and less things were being made by hand. More things were being made in factories. That changed the face of our society. It changed what our society looked like. And it talks about unions, corporate America, just how, jobs and the way that they're set up in our society affects what our society looks like today. Chapter 12, Life at Home, Families and Relationships. And this chapter talks about how, it says, what is a family? And I remember this chapter talks about, different families. Family can be different to different people. It's not always husband and wife. It could be, wife and wife, or husband and husband, or parent and dog children. It says that in the book. It's not my opinion. It says parent and dog children. It talks about troubles in family and child and elder abuse and just kind of all the different family dynamics, how those things affect us in society. Okay, now chapter 13, Leisure and Media. So these are the things that we decide to do for fun. These are the things that we do for fun and that we watch for fun, like YouTube, or maybe we interact in social media, and how those things play an aspect in shaping how we are. Chapter 14, Health and Illness. Now, health and illness, if I remember correctly, that was a chapter that our professor was like, we're not going to read that. Just really, she probably prepared the course before the pandemic, so I thought that was really interesting. I did read this chapter, obviously, because I told you I read everything in this book. And even though we didn't write a paper or talk about this in class, when you think about health and illness, obviously it plays a huge role in society. How our medical system is set up. You're seeing that play out right now with the pandemic because, a lot of people are saying that we weren't prepared for a pandemic. Our society wasn't prepared for a pandemic. So that's why you see, if you see something that you don't think is fair, or the way that things are panning out, or you think that things should have been done differently, whatever it is, maybe you thought people should be able to work, maybe you think everybody should wear a mask, whatever it is, the society that we're in determines how kind of things went as far as this pandemic, how things are going to go in the future. Part 5, Envisioning the Future and Creating Social Change. So this part of the book, we go ahead and we learn all the things about society, and there's some problems, there's problems in everything. So there's probably some things that are ways in which our society can run smoother. When we read about some of those problems, then we get to the end of the book, which talks about things that we can do to work on those problems. Because in essence, if you were getting a degree in sociology and you want to become a sociologist, that's probably something that you want to do. That's probably a reason of why you are studying sociology. Or, a lot of people have to take sociology as a prerequisite or general education course. But if you were going to school to be a sociologist, these would be the reasons why. So we have chapter 15, which is population, cities, and the environment. And in this one, in the future, theories of population change. This chapter just talks about percent population residing in urban areas by country, and this is in 2010. Has like a little map there with the different colors, and it's just kind of like how urban areas, how we live, how that affects the environment. And then chapter 16, finally, social change. And this chapter just really goes into, or it says, what is social change? And it just talks about, how we talk about, when we go back to before about deviant behavior, what we deem deviant, and maybe some of those things shouldn't be. And this chapter goes into what are some things that you can do, and they have right here, like Buy Nothing Day, because we're a country of consumerism, and that is creating a problem of pollution and waste, and poor labor conditions in other countries. So we just talk about all these things that are a problem. We talk about things that are just the way that they are, good things in society, things that are bad things in society, and ways that we can change them. That was the course, Sociology 101. I really enjoyed this course. I hope if you guys are thinking about taking this in college, you do, because it's something I think that everybody should learn about. If you have any comments about the subject matter or any questions about the class that I took, please leave a comment in the comment section. Please do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And I look forward to seeing you guys all in the future. Bye.